Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 93 of A Year of Change. Today we're going to talk about something that we've mentioned before a number of times, but it's not something that we've really delved into really deeply. And it's something that may be a bit polarizing for some, but it's just something that I feel that it's high time we probably addressed. And I mentioned that I was going to be doing this last week, so this shouldn't come as a surprise. And that is accountability. Now, when we first started this, I wanted to create something that was a little bit unique, that we had a community and a place where people could go to get support that they needed. So that it wasn't just watching one person go, oh, well, here's what I'm doing, here's my progress, here's my diet, here's how I'm losing weight and everything else, and then just people sort of sitting back and watching going, oh, okay, well, I'll do the same thing. I wanted it to be something that people could interact with and start their own weight loss and, you know, sort of work together that way, because we all know that, well, we may not all know, but it's well known that if you have someone that you're working with, then you're much more successful in trying to lose weight or stick with the program or things like that. And I wanted to sort of grow into something that people could go to and know that there are people there that understand what they're going through. But I mean, part of that as well was that right from day one, we've always been of the opinion, well, I have anyway, always been of the opinion that we are the way we are because of us. It's no one else's fault. No one's force-feeding you. No one's, making you go to the store, buy the junk food, bring it home and eat it. No one's forcing me to overeat. It's our own behavior. And whether it's something that has come around from, learned behavior from when we were kids or something more recent, we're still adults and there is still that accountability that, as hard as it may be, it's still our fault. We are the ones that are doing this to ourselves. There's no one else that we can point to and say, you're the reason why I'm fat. Many people do. That's why, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I'm sure someone is trying. At some point, they're going to sue, like McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever it is, and say that it's their fault that they're fat. It may have happened already. I don't really know. But one of the things that, we've always sort of stuck with that mentality, but there's one thing that I've never really quite agreed with, and although it's very similar, I've never really pushed people towards that, and that is Overeaters Anonymous. Now, if you're part of Overeaters Anonymous and it's working for you, then great. That's one thing that whatever you find that works for you, then do it, because it's going to work. This is just something that I don't feel would work for me for a number of different reasons. And the big part of that is that accountability. Now, I've never pushed people towards this because I don't think it's right for me to say, oh, well, you should go up here and try this and everything else if I wouldn't do it myself. It's one of those things you can go, you can look up, and you can make your own decision. But these are just a few of the things that I've noticed that really sort of stand out as weird all the way around for it. First and foremost, of course, is that accountability thing. We're adults. We should, hopefully anyway, should be free-thinking adults as well. But one of the main tenets of Overeaters Anonymous is that you have to admit that you're powerless against food, which is ridiculous. You might have an addiction. I can even go as far as that and say, yes, we're addicted to food. That's fine. I can't, in good conscience, say that anyone would be powerless against it. Because no matter how big you are, no matter if it's junk food or if it's overeating, whatever your issue is, there has been some point where, whether it's because of embarrassment or you think, no, enough is enough, I'm not going to do this, where you've stopped eating somewhere. That there has been food there and you haven't partaken in the food, for a nice fancy word. And regardless as to what the reason is, that simply does not happen if you're powerless against it. It can happen if you're an addict. If you take, just like cigarettes, you can say, okay, well, I'm not going to smoke right now. But we aren't powerless against it. Another tenet that they sort of push forward is that, and although they say they aren't a religious organization, they are. And they'll say, basically, you need to hand everything over to, and they sort of hide behind the fact that they're saying, behind God, by saying a higher power or God, however you choose to view them, which is ridiculous. But they'll say, no, you have to turn everything over to them, and because you can't do this on your own, which is bullshit. We can. If you've ever done the yo-yo diet thing, you know that you can. The fact that you didn't stick with it doesn't mean that you're powerless against it. It just means that we backslid, and we've all done it. Same thing as any other addict. And I know I'm using the term addict sort of loosely. It's obviously not the same as like heroin or something like that, which sort of leads me to my next point, or alcohol for that reason. Alcoholism and food addiction or whatever other addiction that you have is not a fucking disease. There is no biological aspect to it. It's not a degenerative disease. The only thing that it has in common is that it makes your life shit if you keep on doing it. So let's just sort of cut that out right away, because by doing that, you sort of diminish go into a cancer ward and tell people, say, yes, I have a disease because I can't stop eating cake. It's ridiculous. And it's insulting. But that sort of goes along with the, saying that you're powerless and everything else. It all sort of focuses in on this isn't your fault. And that's what I don't agree with. It takes away that accountability completely. And you say, well, it's not my fault. I have an illness. I can't help myself at all. And I have to I have to turn everything over to someone else and have them fix me. And you really don't. I mean, there are going to be some people, obviously, that this does work for. You might be enrolled in it now. And if it's working, then fine. It works. You can't actually deny that it does work. This has worked and helped for a whole honkin' bunch of people. But for me, I'm just giving the reasons why I would never go. So, you still go through the same 12 steps that they do for Alcoholics Anonymous, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, there's one that says you have to, go and apologize for any wrongs that you've done to people. And for the life of me, I can't figure out how bad things must have gotten for you to actually have done something so bad related to food that you've had to go and apologize to someone for ruining their life. Like, aside from like eating little Timmy's birthday cake at his 6th birthday party all by yourself and all the kids are crying, like, what the hell else could you possibly do? No one has ever gone and said, I'm very sorry, I need to make amends because I had too much bacon at the buffet. It just doesn't make sense to me why those are in there. Again, it's one of those things, obviously I'm not experienced in it, so I don't know how minuscule these apologies need to be to go to someone and say, I'm sorry I ate the last sausage. It's just... But that's in there as well. It's pretty much the same steps as AA. And AA is another one of those things. If it works for you, fine, it works for you. But with what we're doing here, I think that getting into a program where you just say, oh, it's not my fault, you need to fix me. And I'll work with you and try my best, but, I have to go to meetings all the time. And there are instances as well where they're saying, well, if sugar's your problem, you can't have any sugar. Just like alcoholics can't have a drink. So you can still have sugar. You can go and you can have a chocolate bar. It's just the problem is that you just have one and then you say, I want 10 more. And it is difficult. I'm not denying that. Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be the weight that I am if it was easy. None of us would be. But there has to come a point when you say, you know what? As hungry as I am, I'm going to be uncomfortable and not eat that. It's very difficult, and inevitably, we're going to end up eating it and hating ourselves all over again. But that, again, is not being powerless against it. And they do differentiate between being powerless and being helpless, which doesn't make sense to me again. But it's just, everything points towards that whole mentality of it's not your fault. And it is. We are the way we are because it's our fault. There's no one else that we can point to and say that this is their fault for making us fat. I'm fat because I eat too much and I do too little. That's what we're trying to change. And whether you're in the same boat as me or whether you're just, you're fat because you're eating junk food or because you simply don't do any activity and maybe you eat properly, maybe you eat just fine, just you don't get out to do any exercise. Whatever the issue is, in our heads, we can look at it and say, here's what I would need to do to change, period. And, obviously writing it down and looking at it and saying, this is what I need to do is very easy. I can look at it and say, well, obviously what I need to do is to cut my calories down to whatever it is, 1,500 a day or whatever. Exercise, doing vigorous exercise 5 times a day, and, not having a job where I sit down all day is very easy. There's 3 little things and my life will change for the better. But like actually going out and putting that into practice is difficult, and I'm not denying that. But again, no matter how you look at it, we're the ones that need to do it. Now, again, I have a number of other criticisms with it. I mean, I'm not some of the way out there ones. There are some people that really criticize a lot of it, saying that it's a cult, which I don't really agree with. It's a little too religion-y for my liking as well. That they actually have a section on their webpage that says, you know, what if you're an atheist or an agnostic or something like that? And it still says, well, you need to be not that you need to be, but it's still saying, well, you need to be spiritual. So there is that sort of mentality of there is an underlying tone of religiousness, spirituality, however you want to put it. In there, I mean, there's steps. It's turning everything over to a higher power is the same as saying turning everything over to God or gods or a god or whatever you want to do. It's all still the same. And so they can say, no, we aren't a religious organization, but it is, I mean, predominantly a religious organization as well. So I think that's sort of what bothers me as well, is that when you go in, they're basically saying, okay, you need to stop your thinking, and here's what you're going to need to do. And once again, telling you how to think, how to act, and saying, oh, no, you're helpless. You can't do this all by yourself. You need us. That's what I really don't like. Like, I'm hoping that these videos are helping people, that you are watching these and you're doing the weekly changes that we started, and that you're sort of following a path and that it is improving things, but you don't need it. It's not required. You could do this on your own, but it's nice to have help. And I'm not balking at them helping people, because they do help a lot of people. It's just these are, again, some of the reasons why I wouldn't go into it, just because it's a few red flags that are in there. Now, like I said, there are some people that go way over the top and say, oh, it's a cult. It's not. It's not that bad. There are people that say that they're misogynistic, which makes no sense, because it's like 84 or 85%, somewhere it's in the 80% range of the members are female to begin with. So, I mean, the membership is predominantly female, so I'm not sure exactly where they got that. But I'm not criticizing them for just being utterly ridiculous. This isn't like homeopathy, where everyone knows it doesn't work, and it's just the people that are in the dark ages and snake oil salesmen that are selling it. This does actually work for some people. For quite a few people, actually. It's just, it's something that I can't imagine I would go into and be able to agree with it enough to follow through. And the fact that you're going into meetings and things like that, that I can see would be helpful, because you're sharing the same way that we will do back and forth, whether it's in the comments or it's me talking to you, saying, here's the difficult time that I had, here's how I fixed it, and just so that you can relate back and forth. That I understand. But any program that says you need to do exactly this and follow this, and it's the only way that this is going to work, because you can't do this by yourself. You have to have this. It should be a big red flag for anybody, whether it's free or not. And I'm pretty sure Overeaters Anonymous is free. It's just that I have a really hard time giving up any control to anybody for any reason. And again, it's that accountability where you can look at it and say, no, this is my responsibility. I'm doing this myself. And, yes, I will take as much help as I can get. That's why we started this to begin with. So getting help from people, that's not the problem. It's when you finally just give up all free thought and look at it and say, I can't do this anymore by myself. You have to do this for me. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. And it'll be fine. You need to take that responsibility for yourself and say, no, I'm doing this. I'm the one who's going out and performing these actions that are causing me to be fat, whatever they may be. For me, it's overeating. It's not doing enough exercise. Having a job where I sit all day doesn't help, obviously, but there are people that do the exact same job that I do that don't look like me. So obviously they're doing something else. In their leisure time, they can go out and they do, sports or other activities. My leisure time is spent sitting watching TV. So there are behaviors that we are doing that are causing these problems. And that's what we need to focus on, is to look at it and say, these are things that we can change. No, they're not going to be easy. They are going to be difficult. But the old saying, anything worth doing is worth doing well. Which I just, those positive aphorisms, that's not a word, is it? No. Affirmations and just little positive sayings and things like that are fine to sort of get you started, but you can't live off those. There has to be some point where you come to the conclusion and say, okay, I need to change my behavior because what I'm doing now isn't working. And that's what we started this off with. And when I ended up gaining weight a couple of weeks ago, I knew, okay, it wasn't a matter of me going, oh, it's over, I need help, I can't do this by myself, I need someone to take over for me. I was able to look at it and say, obviously, I've done something, my behavior has changed somehow, so that it's caused me to gain that weight back. And then, so I changed it, and I paid a little more attention, tracked things a little more carefully, except for Saturday when I fucked up my math, and I got back on track, and things are fine. Doing it again this week, paying more attention to it, and if, again, once we hit a plateau, if whatever you're doing isn't working, change it. It's just that, it sounds really simple, and it kind of is. It's the willpower and that sort of motivation. That's where the hard part's going to come in. But that's why we have you guys. So that when we're running into those walls, when we're saying, well, I don't want to do this anymore, or it's too difficult, or I'm having a really, really bad craving and I want cake and cheese and bacon and everything else, that they'll have somewhere that they can go, that they can talk to you, they can talk to me, and say, here are the problems I'm having. And that sort of sponsorship is part of Overeaters Anonymous as well, and I think that is a good thing. But there just seems to be such a vilification of them saying, I'm going to eat a cake. It's like, well, then fucking have a cake. Have one. And then regroup and stop and say, okay, I'm not going to have 10 more. Then talk to someone. But just cutting out everything automatically doesn't solve the problem. It just pulls you away from what's causing it. And sticking your head in the sand is never going to help. So anyway, I'm debating whether or not Anyway, I'm not going to put the link to Overeaters Anonymous in the description below because I can't really in good conscience promote it. But again, that's a personal thing. You can find it online anywhere. It's very simple to Google search for it. You can Google it and you'll be able to find tons of sites like their main site and meetings near you. If you want to go do that, you're more than welcome to. You're still welcome back here, still free to comment. If you disagree with this and say, I've been a member for this many years and here's how it works and I'm looking at it incorrectly, if I'm wrong, let me know. Because part of being able to do what we're doing here and being able to adapt and change things is admitting when we're wrong. And looking at it and saying, okay, you know what? The facts have changed. I wasn't educated enough on this. Maybe I didn't delve into it deep enough. So yes, then I can change my mind. And people are allowed to do that. Right now, though, it's sort of conflicting because on one hand, I'm going, yes, they obviously work. But I find that they're working in a way that, for me anyway, looks as if we're just giving up. And saying, you need to tell me what to do so I can do this because I can't do this on my own. And I really think that you can do this on your own. Getting support from us or from them or from whoever you need to get it from, that's fine. That's what we're here for. So that we can say, no, we've been there. Here's what we did to change it. And you can do the exact same thing. I just don't really agree with sort of giving up your free will and your free thought and any sense of logic and reason to just sort of hand everything over and say, all right, obviously this is out of my hands and fix it. Just not like that. But that's it. That's my rant. And again, it's one of those things that I don't want to shit all over them because they do help a lot of people. And if you're part of it and it has helped you, then bravo. Everything's going to be different for everybody. This program isn't going to work for some people. That's going to work for them. If for some people, Overeaters Anonymous will never work, and maybe something different is going to help them. And for some people, it's just going to be a matter of saying, you know what, enough is enough. Going to go to the gym 7 times a week and do it that way. Everyone's going to have their own approach. The main reason why we started this is so that all these different approaches could come in together. We could share what does work, and we can share what doesn't work, and work together to get to where we need to be. But I'm going to stop now because otherwise I'm just going to keep ranting and raving about other stuff, and I don't really want to. And you probably don't want to watch it. So, thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.